It's the start of week 4 in the FTC DECODE season. You need a plan, and I got you covered. A danger of designing things as a fully integrated system is one, I'm Coach Pratt, and I've been a robotics and design teacher for over a decade now, and I've coached and mentored FTC teams to national championship wins in the Benelux region. And by the end of today's video, you'll have a full plan on what your build team needs to do, your programming team needs to do, and your outreach team needs to do to have success for the FTC DECODE season. So let's start off this week taking a look at what the main goals are. Now, last week, we were still kind of in the mechanism prototyping and pathing phase. And this week, we're continuing in your major kind of goal is your modular design and your advanced tools. And what I mean by modular design is you want to try to think of your robot bit like building a set of Lego together. So you have your drivetrain, that's one Lego piece. You have your intake, that's another Lego piece. You have your flywheel shooter, that's another Lego piece. And the goal with modular design is you want to try to put on different modular sub-assemblies so you can attach them and move them, attach them, move them on, so that you can easily work with individual subsystems as subsystems instead of a fully integrated system all at once. A danger of designing things as a fully integrated system is one, you're going to face what one of my favorite design channels on YouTube, Stuff Made Here, calls integration hell, where you have a lot more trouble trying to integrate things together. So that solves that problem. And two, if something runs into issues, it's much easier for you to change one section of your design rather than if it's an integrated design, have to change it all. So you want to think about it as modular subsystems, designing things in discrete parts before you move in. And that's kind of your main goal here. So for build team, you should, as you've been doing some of your prototyping for these last few weeks, and maybe a little bit into the start of this first week as well, is you should start thinking about designing your prototype mechanisms as self-contained units. So your shooter should be a self-contained unit. Perhaps there's some sort of transfer mechanism, be it some sort of transfer tube is a self-contained unit. Your intake is a self-contained unit. Your drivetrain is a self-contained unit. And you want to try to make these individual subsystems as flexible as possible. Oh, and if you have some sort of level 2 lift or level 2 elevator, that is also another sort of sub system. So for this season, you're likely going to have 4 separate subsystems, and you should think of those modularly. As you're starting to design and prototype these things, now is a good time to talk with your programming team, and programming team talk with your build team and start saying, okay, what kind of sensors might I want to integrate into these designs? If I'm talking about an intake and I have some sort of switching mechanism, maybe I have a couple columns for how things going in. Maybe I want to integrate a color sensor into my intake somewhere so that I know which color is coming in and which order that color is coming in, if that's important. Maybe I want to think about some sort of contact switch or a limit switch. Maybe on my lift, I want to think about some sort of magnetic limit switch for that. Maybe a touch sensor makes sense. You know when you're connecting with a wall. Maybe you want to have some sort of distance sensor. So if you don't have color localization or color and camera localization, an easy way of doing that might be just using a simple distance sensor in the front of your robot. So you can say, hey, am I about 2 meters away from this? And then depending how far away you are from that, you just spin your drive wheel up on your flywheel to maybe a different sensor. So build team and programming team, now's a good time that you've had a few weeks to start working on this, to start thinking, what kind of sensors could I put into my robot that is going to make my life easier? That's going to make it simple. And then you can use that data from the previous 2 weeks of prototyping to begin deciding on some sort of direction you're going to take for your robot for your first competition. Are you going to do a single flywheel shooter? Are you going to do 2 flywheel shooters in parallel? You can do some sort of catapult mechanism. Is your catapult going to be a single ball, double ball, triple ball all at once? Are you going to even have an intake for your first one? Do you think your team is going to have time to be able to design a flywheel and design an intake in the 8 weeks you have left, or depending on how many weeks you have left until your first tournament? Now's the time to start thinking, when's competition 1? How far away am I from competition 1? And realistically, if my driver is going to need about a week, or drivers are going to need about a week, maybe 4 days minimum, to practice driving with this thing, my programmers are going to need at least 2 or 3 weeks to be able to program everything once it's all in a nice, neat, discrete package. How many weeks do I realistically have left that I can spend time building? When it comes to the programming team, One, you need to be, again, I was saying earlier, interacting closely with your build team. What kind of sensors are you actually going to want in these things? Do you know how these sensors work? Do you know how to program them? For your color sensor, have you taken a look at what sort of RGB values you're going to need to be able to read the specific green, specific purple for this season's artifacts or whichever season you're working on? Have you started to build some sort of modular code for these different mechanisms? Do you know you're going to be using linear slides as a lift or a telescopic elevator as some sort of lifting system, maybe linear screws? You could already start creating some mechanism classes for doing that. Do you already know what sort of autonomous pathing you're doing? Have you been working on that prototype robot that we made back in week 2 and week 3? Have you had a chance to have those yet? If you haven't, now's a good time to be building some designs for that. If you're using a flywheel, you probably need to have some sort of RPM calculation so you know how far you weigh. Do you have some sort of distance? Do you have some sort of localization using April tags so you figure out where you are? Now's a good time to really be kind of honing in those points. And again, still focusing on what's my priority list? What's most important right now? And right now, the most important thing you could do this season is drive. If you cannot drive around, you can't score any points. So if you don't have a drivetrain figured out, you don't know how to program that properly, that's step number 1. Once you can drive, the second thing you need to be able to do is be able to score points. And the predominant way you score points this season is by getting artifacts into the goal. So do you have a reliable programming for different distances for how you need to launch that ball in? Are you using some sort of distance sensor so you can check how far away from you are that goal so you can see how fast your distance, your RPM, or how fast your flywheel needs to go? Or same thing for your catapult. So you know the correct distance you need your catapult to launch from. Are you using the April tags to be able to do that? If you don't have this stuff figured out, now's a good time to be looking into this stuff on the programming side of things. When it comes to the outreach team, make sure you have all your sustain goals or most of your team's goals set up. Because I will tell you, one of the big things on the Sustain Award is that you know what your team's goals are and you're making a plan and you're following that plan. If you come in without a plan and you try to make up a plan to judges and try to express it, oh yeah, we've had this goals for this long time. We definitely wrote them down. We definitely know what they are. The judges are pretty smart people in the first realm. And as a teacher myself, I can generally see when a student is trying to just completely talk and just pull things out of anywhere when they're trying to tell something to you. So make sure you actually have a plan for those sustain points if you're going for the Sustain Award, that is. Reach out to your sponsors. Now might be a good time for the previous season sponsors, if you haven't thanked them yet, for them to help with the current projects and what they did last season. Now's a good time to reach out and say, hey, this is a success we had last year. Would you be interested in sponsoring us again to be able to do some sort of continuing on that relationship? Because a sponsor isn't necessarily just a one-time thing. It is something that continue on from year to year. This may be a good time this week or next week to actually start up your first long-term outreach project. Be that your first session with an elementary school after-school program, be that volunteering at a local STEM club, be that helping if your team has an FLL club, joining in with that. If you don't have the opportunity to do that, this might also be a good time to join forces with another FTC team in your region and say, hey, we're looking for more outreach opportunities. Do you need more volunteers for your activities? And then your team can come help and be some sort of boots on the ground, so to speak, and be some actual more bodies to help out other teams. So you may have another team doing the planning, but you can actually help and be those volunteers, be those key people to help them actually be able to run their events. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with combining up with another FTC team. And I think it really does speak to that whole kind of goal of FIRST, which is it's for the inspiration of robotic science technology and trying to inspire the next generation. And you are putting the competition to the side. Yes, you're helping another team, but the reality is you're helping the STEM community grow in general. I really think that that is the type of community that we need to be building and breeding when it comes to FIRST competitions, as well as just making the world a better place in general. So working with another team and combining up with another team, combining forces, it actually ends up helping both of you with your outreach awards. And not only does it help the outreach awards, it also makes the community a better place, which is such a cool thing about FIRST. And I'm so glad to see that is a thing. So now is a good time, your outreach point, to start talking about that. It might also be a good time, if you haven't done this yet, to start having a running notes and a running log of your engineering journal. Because you're going to have to submit a portfolio at your first competition, likely. And you're going to have some sort of judge award to be able to show your portfolio. And if you have a whole backlog of notes and lists of things that you've done now, it makes it so much easier to design a portfolio that is well put together, has a concise story and a concise through line, because you have so many more anecdotes to be able to pull from. When you're just trying to think of all these different things you can do throughout the season, you haven't had any time to actually sit there and work on it and have those notes to pull through, you're going to be so thankful that you took the time to actually write down those notes. So that is your plan and your goal, my suggested goal and plan for you for week 4 this season. Modular design, more advanced tools, things like localization, things like how do you make it easier on your drivers? So when they press the fire button, your flywheel just spins up to the correct height they want, or your mechanism won't launch until you're at the correct position, or tank drive, whatever it is, have you. And then reaching out to your sponsors. If you want to get more support from me one-on-one, you can consider joining the community down below. I've got monthly live streams as well as CAD tutorials and future in-depth things we go through on that community. Otherwise, I hope you found this week useful for you, and I wish you success out there this season.